Alright, so I'm just going to give you a quick of what's going on in this video, and I just can't believe I'm standing here talking to a camera by myself. I need a selfie stick, and it's ridiculous. But anyway, the reason why I'm making the video is simply because I decided that I'm going to do a bunch of shooting with my Flintlock muzzleloader. And got a bunch of maxi balls, some power belts, maxi hunters, Great Plains, and PA Conicals. What's that? The dog. Okay. So anyway, I go through like different results from my shooting. Velocities, loads, groups, trajectories, and the reason why is because ever since I've been flintlock hunting, which is one of my favorite things to do, I'm not like the diehard, you know, like out there with the satchel and the loincloth, and the big beard, you know, like the mountain man thing. But anyway, so I'm not like diehard. I don't need to shoot cast bullets or whatever like some guys do. But and round balls. That's one thing I didn't check is round balls, just because you just can't carry that oh, what do they call it? The knockdown power. It's not coming to me, but you can't carry the knockdown power out so far, just because you don't have the weight. So, yeah. With that said, I basically knew there has to be a better way with a lot of things. I had so many times that I'm like out hunting, and you get out there and you get a click, you get a fizz, you're not quite sure where you're shooting. You know, you group before you go out, or you shoot before you go out, and your groups are kind of like all over the place, but you're like, good enough. But anyway, so we kind of go through all that. It's not put together well, I'm just warning you, but there's a lot of information in the video if it's something you're into. One thing I do want to mention, in the end of the video, I say that I'm going to Colorado elk hunting. See, that's why my corn gets knocked down. See them little runts? Oh, it just ticks me off. Anyway, so yeah, we're going to Colorado elk hunting, and in the end of the video, I say I'm using some 245 bullets, and they group the best. However, looking at the what do they call it? The energy, I guess, in the ballistics charts. It just doesn't do very well once you get out there at the trajectory or the velocity I'm shooting. So I am probably going to use the 300s. If I had more time to deal with it, I'd probably up my powder, try to get the velocity higher for the 245s, because they did shoot better. But just kind of basically the whole video here is about trying to apply some high-powered precision rifle shooting to Flintlock muzzleloader. So just kind of bear with me if you're interested. The maxi hunters here. We're going to see, these are the 275 grain, pretty common bullet, I think. But we're just going to see how much variation there is per bullet. That's pretty, 272 and a half. Just picking some random ones out of here. Very close, 272.8. 273.6, very close also. I mean, considering what we're doing here, it's not like exact precision is needed. That one's got some of the goobers missing, but it's still right in there. Yeah, exact precision, I guess, isn't really what we're going for, but I was wondering, you know, how close to exact they are, you know, if we're like 10 or 15 grains difference. Yeah, pretty much within a grain. Alright, just want to show you guys something I got here. It's just my powder flask, I guess. I'm not sure, I think that's what they call them, but it's got this 90 grain tube on it. And then what I do is when I'm like hunting, instead, I don't even really use quick loads, which they would be a little faster, but I just squeeze the button, flip it upside down, which is kind of hard to see on here, but and then it just gets as full. That wasn't quite enough, but it just gets as full as like my fingers pushing down in it. Boy, I don't know if you'll be able to see that, probably not, but anyway, it's full. And what I wanted to show you is the consistency with that. was kind of curious as to how accurate or consistent actually it would be, but well, you're not gonna be able to see that, I guess. Just have to take my word for it. But this is the last one I did, which was 87.6, and I've been pretty consistently at 87.5 to 88. So let's see what we got here. Okay, well that one was a little light about the time I say it, but it could be I didn't have it quite full. Whenever I did it just a little bit ago, I did like 4 of them, and both of them were within a half a grain. I mean, all of them were within a half a grain, so it's kind of interesting in case anybody cared about that. There we go. So this one here was like a grain and a half light. But anyway, I would say very consistent, so we're gonna try a couple loads here, but just for information purposes. Alright, what we're going to do here today is try to do a little more scientific shooting with the Thompson Center Hawkens. This is a 1 in 48 twist. Don't know if you can see that, but we're going to try, we're going to see what we can get done here, but I've already done a little bit of shooting, some with these 245 grain power belts, the 300 grain power belts, the Great Plains 385 grain, and the maxi balls and maxi hunters, the 275 maxi hunters and the 320 and 370 maxi balls. I'm gonna weigh everything to keep a consistent powder. I've done a volume measurement to start with, but on the 2F, the volume measurement is essentially the same as the weight measurement in grains. So we're also going to try, hopefully, to see if there's any significant difference between 2 and 3F. I've always historically run 3F in the pan, the barrel, and everything just because of the ease of it. But we've done a little bit of shooting here. Probably can't make sense of my notes. But previously, we shot the 380 grain, 85 grain Great Plains, and actually the group was so bad, like I couldn't even hit the target at 75 yards on some of them. Velocities, for interest's sake, 1135 or 1134 to about 1165. The maxi balls, this is all with 2F, and it was at 89 grains. Which is what I get when I hold my finger over my powder measure here. I put that on the end of my flask, or whatever they call it. Hold my finger over it, dump it upside down when it's on there, and it measures out to about 89 grains. But anyway, so the maxi ball 370s, 75 yards, was basically anywhere from 1125 to 1167. I kind of wondered if I was getting a little bad readings there on the velocities. That because it doesn't generally, the velocity doesn't vary much at all for what you would think it would. Like I don't know if anyone's done any shooting for high-powered rifles, but they're pretty stinking consistent for what you got going on here. But anyway, the 370 maxi balls grouped to 5x5 at 75 yards. The power belts shot, let's see here, 1242 was the lowest, up to 1274, and that grouped to 5x5 at 75 yards. Also shot the power belts later at 100 yards. The lowest there was 1252, up to 1305 was the highest velocity, and that was a group of 5x3. The maxi ball, I had some maxi ball 320s. Yeah, they shot from 1257 to 1314 in the velocity, and they grouped really well, but I'm not sure what was going on there. They had a 2-inch group that was basically 4 inches above another 2.5-inch group. There was just 5 shots on that, but Just kind of weird. I'm not sure what the deal was with that. And that was at 50 yards, so it was kind of wide for 50 yards. So the 370 grain maxi balls at 100 yards grouped 1.5 feet up and down and about 8 inches left and right. The velocities are pretty much all the same there. The lowest 1228, 1309 was the highest. And then I shot, I just had 3 245 grain maxi balls that I shot at 100 yards, and they grouped a 4x3, and their velocities were really consistent in that 1366 to 1397. So got some more of those right there. We're going to try and see if we can get you some results. One addition I forgot to mention is that I upped it to 100 grains. My velocities leveled out. They're much more consistent at 100 grains. And I basically gained on the 345 power belt, I gained roughly 80 feet per second, upping the velocity like that. So I think that's pretty good gains for 10 grains. I mean, I feel like I'm still not blowing a bunch out the end. I mean, I'm sure I'm getting kind of close to that point, but the gun seemed to like the higher velocities. The bullets, they group just as well, if not better. So kicks a little more, but if you can bear that, it seemed to be a better deal. So here are the results of our shooting here today. We shot around 20 shots of various combinations, and this is a ballistics chart that I found in the power belt, whatever piece of paper that comes with it, the stuff you never read that I wish I would have known prior to this, because it's really interesting information. But so the one I was shooting has a ballistic coefficient of 161, and all the rest of them are listed there. It's got like your, what does it say? If you use white hot pellets and yada yada yada, it'll tell you what your trajectory should be and all that. However, since we're using black powder here, it's not accurate. However, if you do know the ballistic coefficient, you know the weight, and you know the trajectory, if you have a chrono, you can obviously figure that out with all the ballistic calculators online. So the short story is, if you're going to shoot cast balls in that gun, the Hawkens 1 in 48 twist, at least my gun, I mean, I'm sure they're all different, but you want to go with the heaviest maxi ball that you can. I didn't actually shoot the maxi balls out at considerable distance, but the heavier, the more accurate is really what it comes down to. However, there's nothing compared to the power belts. If you're going to shoot a full bore, I didn't shoot any sabots because we're going to Colorado, and you're not supposed to have sabots out there, so I was shooting all full bore stuff, so I was shooting the power belts, but there is just no comparison in accuracy. Even to the 370 maxi ball, the power belts just went out big time. So maxi balls are fine for shooting deer in the big woods or whatever. The Maxi Hunter, however, is just crap. I mean, they just don't group for nothing. I've shot them for years and always wondered why I couldn't hit anything. And, well, now I figured it out. So anyway, I've always thought muzzleloader is just not that accurate, but that's not the case, as I'll try and show you here. So the Power Belt 300s, they basically, I only shot the 300s and the 245s. The 300s were the platinum, and the 245s were just the Joe Blow, what are they, just copper arrow tips. So the 300s, they shot relatively the same as the 245s. The 245s always just beat them out just by a little bit. When you get out to distance, however, when we're talking like 200 yards, up to 150, they shot basically the same. Even the trajectory was about the same. But once you got out to 200, the group opened up considerably. At 200 yards, I shot a 3-inch by 7.5 with the 245s. However, the 300s, it opened up to 18 and a half by 10 and a half. So, and for some reason, the 300s always grouped oblong, high and low. So
at 150 they shot a 6x3, 6 up and down, 3 side to side, and then the 245s always grouped left and right. So they shot a 1.5 up and down at that same 150, and a 6 left and right. But relatively the same. And when you're talking about just shooting a deer or something, relatively the same. And the grouping on the target was the same. They weren't to the left or the right of each other. So if you want to know, they were basically both about 10 inches lower than a 100-yard, which I had it sighted in for about 1 inch high at 100 yards. They're both about 10 inches lower than that at 150, and the 300s dropped a little more at 200. They were 25 inches lower at 200 yards, and the 245s were only 20 inches lower. Basically, I'm going to be shooting the 245s. We're going for elk, and I feel very confident I could plug something at 200 yards. I'm sure it starts tailing off quick after that, according to the ballistics calculators. But accurate. I mean, when you're talking 3x7 open sights, 200 yards, that is accurate. There's nothing wrong with the gun, we'll put it that way. So, interesting fact I found out, I've always wondered the difference between 2F and 3F, if there's a velocity difference. I didn't actually shoot very many shots because I was getting tired of it, and the flies were biting and the wind's coming up and stuff like that. So, shot 2 shots with the Maxi Hunters at an 89 grain volume load. It'd be like a 90 grain tube is what I just put my finger over it, measured in a 90 grain volume tube. 1340 is what the 2F velocity was. Same volume, 1470 in the 3F. So obviously not interchangeable. I always was like, oh, whatever, just dump a little of this, a little of that. But it's definitely going to change the trajectory. The other interesting fact about the volume measurements, there's actually less weight in 3F, in mine anyway. I assume they're all that way, but so there was only like 86 grains in a 90 grain volume. There was only 86 grains of weight in a 3F, and in a 2F it was actually more dense. There was about 89 grains of weight in a 90 grain volume. Another interesting thing I thought you guys would like is the flint. I've always thought there's got to be a better way than wait until a big buck's in front of you and click. So everybody knows that, or click and a little fizz, but that's a different story. But I was worried about the click, which with the click and the fizz deal, I'm convinced 3F is better in the pan. It seems like it doesn't collect moisture as bad, but that's just my opinion. I haven't actually checked that. But so napping is something I've been turned on to here, and I don't have a napper, but I thought I would try it with just with the pliers and just kind of hit it a little bit. Definitely helps. The theory is, make little fractures in the flint so it'll break easier. And this is not one of those English flints, I can't think of what they're called. But whenever I saw that it wasn't really breaking, it wasn't getting a lot of edges, then I would just kind of tap it with my pliers, which was about every 3 shots, and I didn't have any trouble. But I started noticing it was starting to get kind of blunt. I've actually flipped it around. I don't know if you can see that, but that side, the back side, is really wore down. Well, that looks much better on this side, but it's really wore down. And I've had this flint forever. When you nap, definitely wears them out faster, but you get better spark, it seems to me. So anyway, I shot like 16 to 18 shots, no problem whatsoever. And then when it quit, I noticed it was wearing down, and when it quit, it quit. So flipped it around and got it going on the other side. But I would say, as far as hunting, as long as it's not blunt, as long as it's not had a lot of shots through it, and the actual edge here starts wearing off. You can see this one's starting to wear a little bit, but not bad. The other one was like, I don't know if I can show you, but it was like wore back to here or whatever. So it was actually back into I've got a lead ball thing on, a lead ball sleeve on there. It was wore back to the lead, so I assume that's why. But definitely helps if you want to have an increased odds of fire. So I think I'm going to continue doing that. And that pretty much sums it up. So if anyone has any questions, just ask in the bottom.